The ABC, which has become shameless about its activism, well, on the weekend, the national broadcaster again made a mockery of its charter and legal obligation to be impartial with its woeful, biased coverage of the coronation.
Result of the Crown establishing institutions here, Australia itself was founded, or at least New South Wales and the colonies, founded as penal colonies. So it's about time we absolutely start to imagine First Nations peoples at the front and centre of our nation. You know, abolishing prisons for one, because those are also outdated in this colony.
For us, we read history through trauma. We don't read history in a linear way. History lives in us. It is not referential. It's not footnotes. It is scars. It is broken bones. And it is too many damaged souls. And we need to heal.
So many of our beautiful multicultural communities have also suffered, you know, under this exact, you know, colonisation process and the like.
What utter nonsense. It's bad enough to be served historically illiterate grievance mongering on the taxpayer-funded broadcaster, but now they want to drag migrants into their anti-Australia self-loathing? No, thank you. Migrants are among the most patriotic Australians, and part of the reason migrants from around the world are desperate to call Australia home is because we are a product of British colonisation. We're an advanced, tolerant and peaceful country, a prosperous country where anybody, regardless of their class, colour or creed, can succeed. But according to pretty much everybody at the ABC, this is just a racist backwater built on thievery and genocide. And it all started with those evil royals.
An institution that's perpetrated colonisation all around the world at the expense of First Nations peoples and people of colour.
Because the symbol of that crown represented the invasion, the theft of land, and in our case, the exterminating war, which next year will mark 200 years.
That they are at the heart of the dispossession of the stolen land of our First Nations people and of massacres and attempted genocide in this country and others. That's really important.
The Australia with an Indigenous heritage, a British foundation and the migrant richness of the migrant experience is a lovely idea. I don't know where that Australia is. We haven't lived in that Australia.
You know, they talk about genocide. You know, they talk about crimes against humanity, which they are now recognised as. But this may well be the start of a different Australia and the end of the final element of the British Empire.
You know, there's a lot of a Lydia Thorpe vibe about Stan Grant. Maybe Lydia is just a tad more self-aware. You can be sure Stan Grant can make just about any issue about Stan Grant. But the ABC coverage was truly terrible across the board. So much so that it was a hot topic of conversation today.
The ABC got it wrong again, totally misread the mood. Anybody watch the ABC coverage at the start? They had a four-person panel in the lead-up, three of them Republicans. So they're talking over the footage of this grand ceremony being prepared, souring the mood. So a lot of people turned off. Now, of course, it's fair enough. There's a debate there to have about a republic, but during live coverage of a coronation was not the time. You know, I really wonder sometimes why we feed these ABC people. I don't blame the people on air. It's whomever in management decided, hey, here's a good idea. Let's use footage from London while we bag the living daylights out of the monarchy. Somebody in the ABC needs to be accountable for this. As the national broadcaster, it should have been the place you go to see the coverage of a coronation. Instead, you go and you see all this bitterness about our Indigenous history.
That was Neil Mitchell on 3AW. Here is 2GB's Ben Fordham.
Because when people tune in to watch the coronation, they're not expecting lectures about the monarchy and about the Commonwealth. But that's what they got on the ABC from the likes of Stan Grant. Now, Stan Grant had publicly lobbied the ABC to do this because he was angry about being left out of the coverage when the Queen died. And he hated the fact that ABC presenters were dressed in black after Her Majesty passed away. And he also gave an interview recently to NITV. where he said, I return to that refrain like a blues song, the white queen is dead, the white queen is dead.
Yes, after Stan Grant said he felt betrayed by the ABC's coverage of the Queen's death, one has to question why he was selected to be on the panel hosting the coronation. They knew precisely what sort of activism, not journalism, activism, they were going to get. The same with the chairman of the Australian Republican movement, Craig Foster. No wonder people were irate, and the ABC's coverage dominated talkback radio. Let's hear Ray Hadley's assessment of their coverage.
The most negative thing was the ABC coverage. It was a platform for just bile. It's not the platform for it. There's no dignity attached to it. Just do the ABC supposed to be there balancing, like the scales of justice, balancing coverage. And they never, ever appear to get there.
No, they never get there, and don't expect them to get there when it comes to the race-based referendum. As I wrote last month in the Herald Sun, the national broadcaster's overt activism for the yes vote has been shameless, even by their low standards. It's one thing for The Guardian or The Age or just about any other media outlet to relentlessly push a left-wing agenda, including supporting the race-based referendum. That's okay. They are not government funded and not obligated to be neutral. The ABC does have a legal obligation, and yet it fails daily, indeed hourly, to be fair and balanced.